To Starseed Activations. So tonight we have some questions that came in. Thank you guys very, very much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so. I did it again with the touchscreen. I have a new laptop, so the picture's a little clearer, and it doesn't let me touch the screen. It's so funny. Excellent. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome, Vision Board Works. I love you, sis. Excellent. So some of the questions that we're going to be covering tonight are on attachments. We had a bunch of different questions come in through the website and through Messenger app. And so we're just going to hop right into it. Now, the first question was, is there some kind of bedroom attachment? I have been having bad dreams. I may have also saw a negative entity next to my bed. So this is very important because the second that we realize there could potentially be a dream attachment, there's also entities that circle around the physical body in order to pull energetics off of your grids. Now, there's different types of dream time attachments. There are some who are only in the astral plane. And so what the star people are stepping forward saying is the ones that are congruently in the astral plane alone, they don't really mess with your physical. They tune right into the source of your soul. So they're tuning into the higher self. There's a Kundalini channel that comes down. A lot of times those dream attachments latch on from there, and then they siphon the energy that they need. It's all negativity, so they're kind of like casting that at us. That's okay too. The second that we become consciously aware that there's any type of attachment, whether it be latched onto us in the physical, if we can see it with our real physical eyes, or if we're seeing one in the astral realm, just remember, we can tell them to get off and go home, and they will disengage and leave. Sometimes, if we don't close the door, because your energetic grid structures, the complex of the energetic grid is connected into each one of the chakra systems. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So when we know this, all of those colors overlapping one another forms a complex of grids. Now, each attachment could potentially have a door opening in that grid, and that it allows it to latch onto us. This is just how they work. It's okay. So let's say, for an example, you have a distortion in the physical or in the root chakra, which is red in its coloring. Then all of a sudden, you're going to start to notice that the attachments latched onto you there, they could potentially disappear your items. So if you guys have ever walked around the house for a couple hours, couldn't find your keys, and then the keys were right on the table where you had left them, that's always going to be a physically focused attachment. So many times, I haven't really said this publicly yet, but when the star people came down in last July to do my attachment release, it took us over 4 days. It was quite an experience. All of the attachments, they start to pull down because they belong in the octave below our feet. And so there's some type of attachment that happens in the soles of the feet. And so whenever we're going through the attachments, a lot of times we'll feel it in the lower legs towards the feet area. That's how the star people, they use high technology and they pull them off. They siphon the attachments off. But you still have to know the name. So the name is very, very important, because when we know the name, and it doesn't matter if you're using high technology or your consciousness, because your consciousness can do anything high technology can do. So the second we become aware of this, when we start to pull apart the name of the attachment, how does it make you feel? This is key, because if you're, let's say you run the same, let's say you say the same curse word over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh, darn, it could be that, right? And so when you say it over and over and over again, that's the attachment pushing that emotion code. All words and words in combination, the star people are saying, have a frequency to them. So let's take, for an example, I'm happy. That's 2 words. There's a particular frequency. And then you're happy. That's 2 words. It's a totally different frequency. So when we know that there's a specific name for each and every attachment, it's key that we dive in deep and we start pulling the exact attachment name. So the second we know the attachment name, we kick it off. But then we're not done, because we still have to unpack the emotions. What emotion did you very first fire off that allowed that attachment to latch onto your energetic grids? And so when we do that, then also we want to take love and light. So they always have me rub my hands and clap 3 times. They say clapping is very, very important. It gets the energetics flowing. And then I take it over my body and I love and bless your body. And they said that's self-love. You want to keep doing that. When you're doing this, it is a form of Reiki energetic projection, they're saying. And so it also allows you to, if there was an energetic door open in the grid, it closes it. So there's certain sacred geometric shapes inside of each one of the grids. And so once again, this goes hand in hand with what chakra that grid is connected to. So your root chakra has a very particular shape. And so there's certain types of lines that go about in the shapes. And so this is, they're saying right now, this is the reason why certain Reiki practices, they give them images to work with. And that's because those images are in the source frequency lens of the chakra itself. So the chakra comes out like a vortex. A vortex energetic is how everything in this reality works. So when you see a blade of grass, that blade of grass had to be flowing in a vortex energetic. Now, your higher self, your soul, it comes down in a vortex energetic, but there's two different types of energies. One's going up, one's going down. One on the right-hand side is your masculine energetic system, which is your chi or your electrical systems. That is directly connected into your brainwave patterning. Now, when we start to work with the chi energy, this is how we practice Reiki. So Reiki is utilizing the thought, because it's electrical in its nature, to cast that energy. Now, you also want to use your magnetics. Your magnetics is on the left-hand side. It is your feminine energetics. And so that is directly tied into your emotion grid, which is located inside the heart chakra. So the second that we know this, we have to access both energies. So we have to dive in deep to the emotions. How does it make you feel? Now, if you guys can trigger a very love-based emotion and you can continuously keep doing that all day long, you will eventually allow the higher self to become fully bonded in your energetic grid structures. That is what the star people are saying. When that process happens, you will feel an energy come down. You will feel it take its seat inside of the heart chakra, and it will flower open. It flowers open just like the pineal gland, which is in the center of the mind. And so that pineal gland, there's different types of breath work that we can do utilizing the different elementals. And so when we do that, then all of a sudden that pineal gland flowers open and it gives us access into the astral realms, is what the star people are saying. Okay, you've seen two on your ex-husbands while he slept. I stomped my feet and they looked at me and they did leave. Yes, because that's what we have to do is tell them to get out. Now, sometimes it helps if you open a window. Now, when I was in high school, I actually saw my friend, and this was a long time ago. She had this crazy aunt, and this crazy aunt came over and she shooed an attachment off of my friend who was very sick at the time. He had like the flu, and she had opened the window and told it to get out. She could see the thing. And at the time, we were all like, wow, she's crazy, right? And we were not ready to believe. And my friend, he felt something lift off of him the second she did this. So it's wild. Okay, how to flower my pineal gland. So there's different types of breathwork meditations, and there's a bunch of people on the planet who speak about these things as well. Now, by utilizing the breath, we can actually pull cerebral spinal cord fluid up the spine, which then in turn, when we do that, it actually acts like a piezoelectric effect, which means it generates a spark. It's like the spark of creation. And so when it does that, it taps into the pineal gland and it generates it to open. Now, that pineal gland, it takes the electricity, so it takes a good spark. So whenever we're dealing with the chi energetic systems, the star people are stepping forward saying it is very important to have a proper mineral content inside the physical form, because that mineral content, that salt, carries a voltage, because that salt affects the body's pH levels. So when we are aware of that, we know that when we balance the body's pH levels, we balance the oxygen, because they go hand in hand. When your pH levels and your oxygen are balanced, any distortions in the body will start to heal. So it's key. And then all of a sudden we do the breath work, we pull that cerebral spinal cord fluid up and it flowers open. Now, what you want to feel is love, joy, and bliss. And you want to make sure the higher self takes a seat inside the heart. What it feels like when the heart opens, it feels like fingers open. And so, but the star people say it's like a flowering open. That's what it physically looks like in the energetic grids to them. They can see it with their technology. So now what we do is we just want to feel it like that. Once we know it opens, then you start to do the breath work and then you open the pineal gland. When both of these things open, it's very, very important. This is part of ascension. You could do it now. You do not have to wait. Now, there's a third one that's on top of the head, the crown chakra. And so you will feel the second that all these open up and they flower, you'll feel the top one and it'll kind of feel like someone has their hand on top of your head. That's how you know the energy is fully connected. The more and more each and every one of us can connect and ground in this way, even by just placing your conscious focus and attention on just doing it, is going to help, because this is in alignment. When you become in alignment with the source frequency, because the source frequency is directly connected to your higher self, it shall allow that frequency bandwidth to radiate. And then all of a sudden, all of the people who come into contact with you, they will be able to feel this energy. There's going to be something different about you. In their subconscious mind, they may say that you're very bright or you're glowing. And so, but they won't know what it is that you're actually doing. This is called being in alignment. And this is what we want to try and shoot for every single day. Negative emotions and experiences block us from being in alignment. That's okay too, because the negativity is there specifically so that we can go through that negativity and see things that are inside of us that we would not normally see. We wouldn't normally pay attention to the negativity, so we wouldn't clear it. Now, when something negative comes up or it happens, we want to always be at peace. Okay, so let's say you guys got triggered. That's okay too. And so just allow the emotions to come up. We never want to suppress emotions, and we don't want to always put ourselves down for getting angry. That's nonsense. Just allow the feeling of anger to wash over you and then sit still with it and ask your body, are you done? You're safe. You don't need to be angry. All of this was pre-planned. It doesn't matter. You're going to get through it. You're going to heal it. It's only here to teach you a lesson that you needed to learn, right? So it technically is here to benefit you. So it's okay, right? So start talking to your body in all sorts of different ways. Now, when you guys start talking to your body, you start telling it, it's okay. I love you. I'm going to keep you safe. What you're actually doing is you're bringing yourself to a third-party perspective. And so you are embodying the higher self perspective every single time you pull yourself back and you see. So, okay, I'm from that perspective over there. So I'm going to take a look at my emotions. How are you going to respond to whatever situation you're dealing with? Start questioning all of these things before it comes. That's only level one of changing your perception. Because the second that you're aware, now you want to dive into the feelings, the actual physical emotions. Feel. How does it make you feel inside your physical form? There's a lot of confusion around this topic because I don't think anybody realizes that this is a thing, but this is a real thing. So meditation is not always going to be lay down, drop yourself in deep and try and contact the astral realm. That's wonderful, but that's not all it is. You want to just close your eyes and become very familiar with inside of your body. So feel your fingers, feel your toes, feel your kidneys, feel your liver, feel every single aspect of your body. How does it feel? Now try and trigger an emotion, right? And so how does it make you feel when you feel love, right? Now close your eyes and feel inside your body. How does it make you feel? So you want to dive in deep to all these different emotions. You want to dive in deep and figure it out. Now, even though we want to trigger the negative emotions too, and this is key. This is part of doing the shadow work. You have to feel the emotion. You have to understand how it makes you feel. Because the second that you understand the location, you could start to help other people with their locations. Oh, your kidneys hurt? Oh, the kidneys are directly connected into the sacral, which is orange in its color. And so you start going through and you start figuring all these things out. Every single micro expression is directly connected to an emotional resonance. And so every time that you smile, all of those muscles that make up the smile is connected to an energy. That's all a frequency. It's all coming from your higher self. And it's also coming right from your heart because your heart's in direct control of all the emotions that you have running currently. And now, when we start to realize this, every single human being, we fire off basically the same exact micro expressions. It's basically identical. Unless you're like a sociopath, there's a couple little differences for that. But the bulk majority of all of us, we can tell what your emotion is by your facial expressions. Now, this is very important because we have certain types of artificial intelligence on the planet right now that can detect your emotions. And so we may have even seen this in movies. I'm not sure which one, but the star people saying it's been in movies before too. So they've had glasses or some type of like lens that went in the eye, and it was hooked up to artificial intelligence and a collective consciousness so that they could speak to the eye thing. And then when they looked at other people, it would tell them if that person was lying. Yeah, that's because the thing was looking at their micro expressions. So at that point, now just imagine this is a level in evolution. Now, what happens when that technology becomes released to the general population, right? Now, all of a sudden, no one can lie to you because you're going to get a little indicator inside your glasses telling you, hey, they're lying. So no one's going to lie. It's going to make you be really honest really quick. Now, this is a baby step to getting into 5D because the Arcturians and my Starman, they know when you are lying. There's no fibbing to them. You cannot over exaggerate. There's none of that nonsense. You just can't do it because they'll call you out on it. They're like, that was a lie. And it's like, okay, so we won't do that again. Right. And it's a learning curve because a lot of times some of these white lies, they come up and we believe them. And so there they go. So when we know this is part of evolution, it kind of, and what is the frequency of a lie? Frequency of a lie is always a negative because you know you shouldn't be doing it. Right. So it's wild how things work. But it really gives us 100% open communication because now I don't have to shelter anything. He's going to know it anyway. So 100% communication is beautiful because when you feel and you know that the people who are having that communication with you are 100% unconditional, loving, caring, kind, and supportive of you, it basically means that you can drop your guard and you can just be you without having to worry. And so how many times have we gone into public with 100% dropping our guards? That doesn't really happen too much these days, right? And so you're in public, it's like, okay, well, we have to act or behave a certain way because people will judge us or all that stuff. That's all a 3D construct. So when we get into 5D, none of that stuff actually matters because we realize, oh, we're all connected. We're all one. Even if you're going through the worst experience of your life, that's still a blessing for the collective consciousness because the collective consciousness, the source frequency, in order for us to evolve into 4D first and then 5D, in order for that process to happen, every single experience must be manifest in the physical reality. Now, what that means is every single experience. So whether it's there's different levels because what the star people are showing me right now is imagine that you are playing hockey, right? And so you have the beginning of playing, so you're a beginner level, and then you have the intermediary, and then you have the pro levels. There's 3 different levels to that. There's 3 different levels to extrasensory activities or abilities, the star people are correcting. Now, what they're saying is you have the beginning stages, which many people right now on the planet are doing. Super exciting because they're using tin foil and they're like pushing it across their things, their tables. They're changing the clouds. They're cloud busting. We do the weather changing all the time and it takes like 2 seconds, literally, like just to go inside and feel the emotions of how would it feel if you were standing in a bright, sunshiny day, right? How would that gratitude feel? How would that warmth wash over your body? Just by feeling these emotions, you turn around and you can't have any resistance. You have to be okay if it doesn't happen. And you certainly can't show off for other people. You just have to go inside yourself and just know and believe and whatever. If it happens, it happens. It's wonderful. If it doesn't happen, then there's always a reason for it. It's okay too. So when we start to come at life from that perspective, we also start to know that the higher self is fully guiding and supporting us. Now, the higher self is always going to put us in the right place at the right time in order to experience exactly what we need to experience. And so some things we just shouldn't question. We should just, even if you go through a trauma or something crazy happens, it's like, okay, my higher self can see the full picture. So did that lower trauma make me change my patterns of behavior because it wanted to raise my frequency? That's normally what happens, right? We learn from our mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistake, it happens over and over and over again until you do learn from it. One way or the other, there's going to be a frequency shift. Now, many times when that happens, we call it rock bottom, because it's actually going down. And so whenever you reach one of those rock bottoms, and the rock bottom doesn't necessarily have to be with chemicals or substances, it can also be something like a house fire. So a rock bottom is like you have to start from scratch and you have to do everything all over again. Many times, especially the star seeds, a lot of us have had everything taken from us. This is done on design because when you can walk through the world with nothing, right, it gives you power because then you learn, oh, okay, all my needs were still met. I'm still alive. I made it through, right? And that's powerful because when we could turn around and we could say, take it all, it doesn't matter, I'll start again, right? That's power because now you know and believe that you are divinely supported throughout your entire life. So it kind of, and who are we to argue with the higher self? If the higher self is like, well, you have to experience having nothing, you go through it, you make the best of it, right? It's beautiful. Let me take a sip. How is everyone doing tonight? What kind of cancer? There's so many different cures for cancer. It basically, and once again, the star people are saying that's because every single perception has to be experienced. And so, what we mean by that is just imagine the perception. Someone gets cancer, then they have to go through chemo, and then they make it. So that's one perception. Another person gets cancer, they go through chemo, they didn't make it. That's another perception. Some person gets diagnosed with cancer, and then all of a sudden, they choose not to do chemo. They went organic and all natural. They made it. And then on and on and on. It's every single perception. Every single opportunity needs to be expressed in order for the source frequency to allow the entire planet to evolve. Now, this is also the reason why the technology has been very restricted, right? Some planets need to experience all the technology being suppressed in order to allow us to activate the extrasensory abilities very rapidly. Now, the universe is not going to over endow a species. So if we have access to technology like replicators, we can instantaneously replicate anything that we choose. Are you going to need to do it in the biological form? Which basically means when you need a pen manifests for you. You're not going to manifest that ability because you have the technology. So it's going to take another 100,000 years. This is why not having the technology and having it suppressed, once again, it's a blessing because it makes us go inside and it allows us the opportunity to realize, well, everything on the outside is connected to what is inside of me. The star people are calling that their internal circumstances. It's your internal frequency bandwidth. And so we want to also talk about your frequency and your vibration. So your frequency is in the biological form. Now, when you turn around and you tell your body, I love and bless you, body, yes, it's going to have an immediate effect on the physical body. However, you're going to see a significant change. You're going to have to do that over and over and over again. So you're going to have to continuously make it like a ritual. After 3 days, because everything goes 3, 6, 9, after 3 days, you're going to notice the shift. And what you just did was you've impacted the physical body's frequency. So your vibration is more like your emotions in the now moment. Your frequency is after 3 days, your frequency has either raised or lowered. And so we always want to pay attention to any reoccurring patterns for 3 days straight. If you find yourself in a funk and you're not doing better in 3 days, you want to get up, go out in nature and break the patterns that you have running. Your patterns and your behaviors are also key because your behavior patterns, they're going to dictate when you get sad, what behaviors do you run back to? That's how those work. So you always want to make sure that you fill yourself with so many positive behaviors that prove to your body, I love you. So what are some things that we can do positively to make ourselves feel better? That's key. Now, many times, and there's so many starseeds who have ADD, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like 5D thinking is what the star people are saying. So when we start to notice that, a lot of times it may be easier to carry around a book and make notes. Now, a lot of times we can even do this on the Apple iPad or whatever, the notes in the phone. That's fine too. The reminders, I could not think of the word to save my life. When we start to make notes, it allows us to go back to the notes and continuously become triggered to do the behavior pattern. So if you're like me and you really can't focus like that, either write it down, have pen and paper in your pocket, and keep going back to it, right? So what's a positive behavior that I could do today to make myself happier? If 3 or 4 hours goes by and I still haven't done that behavior, that I want to do at least once a day. Then you whip out the notebook, you read it, and then you make the intention to get it done. This is also how the millionaires work, by the way, guys. They go to their little offices and they have a notebook. And so that notebook has everything that they need to get done. And they go down the list and they check it. If you guys just did that and started making communication with your higher self, it's going to actually allow you to get a lot more things achieved because you're making a list and then you're like, okay, well, what is it that I need to do to manifest something? So what do you want to manifest? So if you want to manifest a new car, make the list. I have to go to the car dealership. I have to go car shopping. I have to check my credit score. I have to talk to the guy X, Y, and Z. And one at a time, just start going down the list. Did you go to the car dealership? Now, what did you get as far as information? What did you receive from going? Do you like a particular car? What kind of car do you like? Did you have to go to multiple dealerships? Have you been seeing a car around the place over and over reoccurringly? That is also could be a synchronicity or a sign. So, but just by having that pen and paper, it really allows you to stay fine-tuned on your behavior patterns. And so not only that, but we can even speak on calling forward your highest and best potential. Now, this is very, very good knowledge because when you start doing both of these things hand in hand, it has the potential to change your entire life. Your entire life. This is how I pulled myself from a cripple into who I am today. So I sat down, I had a journal. My journal had crystals on it. It was wild and amazing. And so I sat down and I started asking questions. Me personally, I thought I was talking to my higher self. I had no idea I had a star man. And so, but a lot of the knowledge, all of the knowledge that was given to me back then was all from my star man. So he basically told me step by step, this is how you heal yourself. You do some stretches, you go for a walk down the block. I had a dog with me, so they're great at emotional support because the dogs always want to hug you. They always want to sleep on you too. It's wild. And so, but when you start to do all these different things, you naturally, your intuition is going to lead you to do things like eat salad. And then you're going to start to lose things. So let's say the iced coffee, that it had to go because it was not in frequency alignment with me when I started to raise my frequency. And so when we become consciously aware, it's kind of like McDonald's. Like many of us, we wouldn't go back and hit the drive-through because it would make us feel sick. That's because we've raised our frequency to such a degree in which it's no longer in alignment with us. So you want to always pay attention to things that are no longer in alignment. So when they're not in alignment, and this happens, unfortunately, to people who use the chemical substances, they'll get clean and sober. And then all of a sudden they raise their frequency and then they'll try something from their old life and it'll kill them. And so that's because there was not a frequency match. You have raised your frequency. So I want you guys to keep that in your mind because when you raise your frequency, let's say you stop drinking coffee and then you start to have a coffee, it's going to have a big impact on you because it's just not in alignment. And so that's only one example, but there's so many different things. So you may have left, let's say for another example, maybe you left a toxic environment and then all of a sudden a year goes by and now you're back in that toxic environment. And so how does that toxic environment make you feel? You may feel like the life get drained out of you right away. And so that's just because when you start raising your frequency, you're not in alignment with people, places, and things anymore. That's okay too. You always want to go where your frequency feels comfortable. Okay. Yeah, you heard the train. It's all the time, man. They're actually, I swear, we must have manifested this, but now they're doing a petition to like quiet hours. This train goes by, and I don't even want to say how often. It's constant, all through the night. It's ridiculous. Okay. Now let's see. So the attachments. Let me take a sip. I take the bottle of water too. It's so much fun. And you guys can probably see the X. I don't know if you can see the toroidal field. It's like this. Let's see if you guys can see it. You can kind of see the little X. It's a toroidal field. And so this is great to prove how we can project energy into the water. Now, I filled it about this far. So it's like a half full. But then I hold it up to my heart and I project love and light into it. And then I watch the little vortexes manifest in the ice. This one is like a solid, it looks just like an X. It's wonderful. But you guys can do it too and just do a trial. Before you do the first energy projection into the water, do a sample one before. because then you'll get a good view of how it naturally looks before you project any energy. The second that we start projecting love and light into an item like this, it actually radiates that energy into the entire freezer, thus blessing all of the food in the freezer as well. So this is why you always want to start with the sample one first. Mhm. Okay. When red meat started smelling ruined all the time and I started craving Brussels sprouts, I thought I'd gone nuts. Now, that's very interesting because I just went through this too. When I was about to go through my healing, which was very extensive for me. And so the star people, and I was a vegetarian, it was like a good year, if not over a year. And the star people were like, you need to start eating meat. And so they helped me to get over all the emotions because for a solid year, I was walking around and anytime someone would like cook meat and 5 minutes after they cooked it, I would smell death. Right. And I'm like, oh, it smells like someone was murdered in here, but it smells good while you're cooking it. But leave that pan on the frying for on the stove for like half hour, 20 minutes. And it's like, oh, I could smell the death. And I didn't like it at all. But then to start people like, okay, that meat is a very dense, it's physically focused. So there are times when you have to eat the meat because it'll drop you into the physical and it will help you ground in to allow you to go through a physical healing. Makes sense. And so, but then once that healing was fully done, they're like, okay, now we want you to gradually start. So now I did the whole egg thing where I was eating eggs. And now it's like we're gradually going back to straight salads. So the water filter, I do have a 0 point water filter. There's some crazy shenanigans going on in my town with the water. And so once again, the star people to the rescue because they had my kid's father move to Pennsylvania. And he's like, he wanted to be closer to the kids. And he got a job in a water factory. So now he comes home with these gallons and nice, fresh, and it's right from this giant like filter place. So there's zero in it. And I test it with the zero water filter and I make sure. Now that's great and wonderful, but we're still missing the mineral content. And so whenever we're drinking water, if you guys have a look at Russia's water, right? One guy showed on a video, he went into his supermarket in Russia and they had so many different types of water. This mineral, that mineral, this place over here. And it was all fresh and clean and healthy with no fluoride, none of that nonsense. So here in America, it's a little lacking. Now, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So we just have to be consciously aware to add some minerals. So even Celtic sea salt, or if you do baths, right? We do 2 cups of dead sea salt. We also do baking soda. We do borax. So throw a cup of each or 2 cups of each in there, and you soak. And it is known to remove certain nano, technology. So when we start to do that, we might see things. And that's okay too, because it's just naturally detoxifying the body. So if there's any other types of toxins or your hormones are not balanced, the borax is great for balancing hormones. Yeah, there's just a wonderful, I don't want to say the website because it's like a block, but they have some movies about borax and all these different health benefits. So it's to me, I was always a stay-at-home mom, so I do research. You get sick, we're gonna see. That one lady said to put an onion and steam it and put it on your ear. Himalayan pink salt. We were using that one for a while, and now there's all sorts of rumors that it doesn't even come from Himalayans. It comes from India, and they're using explosions and radiating it, or it has radiation. So I'm not really too sure about that, but there's so many people who are saying it's not even from the Himalayas. So it's just something to be consciously aware of. Now, once again, any food that we are eating, it is connected to us. And so it's the same exact thing. We can bless the water. We can see the energy shift in the water. This is the reason why we are always told to bless our food. And so the way we bless the food is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. I was doing it completely wrong because my parents raised me Catholic. And so we were always told to say the little prayer, and it's like bippity boppity boo, blessed. That's not the way it works at all. It's so funny. You have to actually open your heart. And so you have to feel the emotions. And so I have 2 small kids. They're 12 and 10. And what we do when we're sitting down, I take them through, it's like a guided meditation, but it takes like 30 seconds. So I always say, open your heart. Feel an emotion that makes you feel love or joy or bliss. right? Something that makes you really excited and happy and it makes you feel warm all over. Then I take them down this whole thing. Imagine the rainfalls. Imagine the waterfalls. Imagine the oceans. Imagine you're flying over an ocean. Imagine that there's a dolphin and he's jumping next to you and it's so amazing and you see all this beautiful scenery and all the little fish and the starfish and the glow in the dark plants and stuff, right? Like we get really creative and imaginative. We have lantern bugs here. And so imagine all this wonderful things that come in your world. And then open your heart and think gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, Mother Earth, for nourishing us. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for grounding us into your energetic rich structures, right? And so we go through this whole process of thinking all these wonderful, and by the time you're done, you feel like so blessed and lucky to be on this planet because we have the widest diversity of any animal and insects life out of most of the other planets out there. And we've been seeded. Now, the second that we fully open the heart and we feel that way, I have them rub their hands together, clap 3 times, and project that emotion. I love and bless you food, right? And so, but you just, bam, you just open your heart. Now you feel emotion of love. And now you want to project that. So when I do the water, I'm holding it directly up to my heart. I could feel my heartbeat to thump. I could feel it in the bottle. And so what I do is then I think, thank you. Thank you for healing me. You can also program affirmations into the water. So you can say, thank you, water, for unlocking 5D frequencies inside of my body. Thank you for unlocking extrasensory abilities. Thank you for unlocking my empath ability so I can feel other people and their frequencies, right? There's tons and tons of different things. The more and more you start doing that, the more and more it manifests. Now, you can also say different manifestations. I drink the best, most healthiest water ever. And you set your intention to do it. So many times we do the manifestation, right? So we'll say it 1,000,000 times. And then all of a sudden, when we get to the store, nobody wants to spend $3 on a bottle of water this size. And so a part of us shuts down the manifestation. That's okay too, because it's an experience. Now, the universe is always going to reorganize your frequency and your abundance depending on what you need and what you're trying to manifest. So if you set your intention to always drinking the cleanest, most purest, most mineral dense water, the universe will figure out a way to give it to you. But if you have to pay for it, you have to pay for it. That's okay too. Because if the universe is going to charge you for water, say you get charged $30 a week, the universe is going to find a way to give you $30 a week back. Right? But it takes a little time for that whole balancing act to come forward. So, but that's okay too. You have to just allow it to be and just go with the flow. Staying in that alignment, staying happy and joyful and blissful. The more you start spending money on higher caliber products too, by the way, it changes your frequency. And not too many people want to talk about this, but this is a real thing. Think about the clothing that we use. The second that you put a name brand clothing on, the people around you, they have a different perspective of you. Now, we know about energetic casting. Now, I'm not telling anyone to go and spend money on clothes that you can't afford, but I'm just telling you, we know about energetic casting. So when people look at you and they think that you are of a higher caliber, it actually projects that image onto your energetic grids and it changes your frequency. And so this is also the reason why when people think negatively of you, it lowers your frequency. You have a higher potential of becoming sad or depressed. That's because we energetically cast our thoughts and emotions at people. And so this is how the system works. It's okay. So when you start to do manifestations, you start to make baby changes, right? And so the baby changes can be just adding one tiny thing that makes you look more appropriate for whatever it is that you're shooting for. You wouldn't go to a job interview wearing street clothes or Walmart clothes, right? You just wouldn't do it. You would want to be held at a high professional level. So when we start to come at the world from that perspective, it is important to recognize that there's different levels to the consciousness, and what you choose to manifest is going to change the experience of your levels. Now, business attire is not always good because if you're one of the hippies running a hippie retreat, you would want to be dressed for that role, right? So, but we should always pay close attention to the way our clothes make us feel and how other people may be projecting onto us depending. So, yeah. Does anyone have any questions? The lantern bugs? Oh, I should put one in a jar and mail it to you. They're like murdering the corn. Everyone else kills them. I'm like, don't kill them. Just go put them over there. hmm At one point in my healing, I could feel how bad McDonald's was. Yeah. Now the feeling is gone. I wonder if my frequency is lowered. Well, that's a great way to be an indicator. Now, me personally, I have this whole sugar thing happening, right? Ever since I was a kid. And so I'm not supposed to eat too much sugar. I say too much, and Starman's like, none. He's like 0. But when my frequency is high, then the sugar doesn't bother me. I don't even feel it. And so, and even the iced coffee, I was drinking iced coffees with all the caramel and the nonsense from Dunkin'. And I was like, oh, I feel great. It didn't have an effect on me, but that's your frequency has to be very high for that. You have to basically be laughing all day long and be creative and having fun. And I was grounded to the earth. I was at the beach every day, even if it was chilly out. We just went to ground into the sand and to give our thanks. And so that's another thing that we don't really take the time to do that. We go outside and we give thanks to Mother Earth every single day. Try and do it. And so the more you do it, you're giving thanks. You are energetically casting onto Mother Earth, which allows her to raise her biological frequency. She's alive too, as are the crystals. Okay, let me see. Oh, man. I don't know if I can scroll up in the comments. I got a new laptop today. No, it won't let me scroll up. I have to get a mouse. It's crazy. We call them lightning bugs. Lightning bugs are on Long Island, actually. They have the bioluminescence. Lantern bugs are totally different. I made a borax water in my teapot. I've never heated up borax water. So we do the opposite. We put a spoon in the water and then in the fridge so it doesn't grow the bacteria. Borax water in hot water, we normally put it in a bath. And so that's amazing. I can't really see too many of the comments. I'll have to figure this system out. Okay, let's see the next one. Okay, so let's talk on 4D frequencies. Now, this is very, very important because this is what our civilization is currently experiencing. We are tapping into 4D frequencies, and then we go through these solar energetic shifts that it's like, wham, it grounds us back into 3D. And then we go through the process again. This goes hand in hand with it's a spiritual week and then it's a physical week. And then that whole process, it becomes quicker and quicker and quicker as it's going up. This is how we get into 4D and then 5D frequencies. So we understand that there's a bandwidth. Now, when the frequency goes up and it goes down, the bandwidth between both frequencies, that's a bandwidth. Now, this is normally in sound frequency waves. We refer to it, but light is also a frequency and it's also a sound. It's a wave. We could see it. So when we recognize this, we know that if you can look at your frequency range, if your weeks, say spiritual, physical week, if they seem like they're going by very rapidly, because everyone's frequency is different, we're going through this process differently. And so if yours seem to be going very rapidly, or like, let's say, even if it's a physical week for the rest of us, right? You feel like you're breezing through everything, so nothing is bothering you. That's because your frequency is very rapid, so it's putting you back in the spiritual week. Now, this is only just allow it to be your perception. Just allow it to come into your imagination. This is actually the way it works, but the star people are saying it's more circular, so it's not really like this. Although if you took the frequency bandwidth and you put it in a circle, you're going to see this, right? As the frequency, as it's spiraling down, because everything is a vortex. So when we start to recognize that this is the way the frequencies work, we start to come inside and it's like, okay, well, if I'm having a crummy week or even a crummy 3 days and it feels like time is dragging, so what are some things that I can do to change my frequency? So whenever you're feeling, it's definitely a spiral, definitely. And this is how the timeline convergences work as well, because it's all spiraling up and down, we see it, but it's coming out like, and it's multiple, because there's different timelines running at the same time. And then according to our biological frequency, we're going to be tuning into different timelines. If I had an artist, maybe an artist could do it. My son's not here. But yeah, that's the way it works. And then we go through, it's like a breath. So, and then when we release, when we come back in, it's a timeline convergence. And so a timeline convergence is when all of these different timelines that are running, they smush back together as one. When we experience a timeline convergence, you guys may notice things change in your local environment. So I personally have noticed stores pop out of nowhere and they look old. I'm like, that was never there. I've walked this block a million times. That is never there. And it's there. So a lot of times things will change. You may even notice, let's say you had a pink pen, it might be green, right? So, but that's only an example. Things change, they shift. Now, we can make conscious changes to the timeline that we are experiencing. This is also known as instantaneous manifestation. So when we start to dive in, we start to notice changes. We can consciously utilize the willpower. We go inside, we imagine, we visualize, we believe, but then not only that, we have to be at peace if it doesn't happen. And so you guys we should be trying to do things like this. Because let's say, for an example, you start to put your conscious focus and attention on the pen and it's pink, but then you start to say the pen was always green. You visualize it as green, imagine it as green. Yes, it looks pink right now, but now what happens if we imagine it so much to the point it forces a timeline shift and then it allows the pen to actually shift into the color green? This is real. You can do it. I've seen it. I know it. So each and every one of us, we should be practicing this on a daily basis, because the second that you unlock instantaneous manifestation, it's game over, right? It's a game changer for your entire life, because now you know. And the second that you know, it's a hologram. We know it's a hologram. So each and every one of us is going through the process. Well, 4D is the process of instantaneous manifestation. And so that includes doing things like bending the wind, like changing the weather, like moving the tin foil with your magnetics or your electrical, right? I personally, I've made lightning. This is why my Starman called me Pikachu. Look, someone sent me a Pikachu crystal, right? And so these are real things that all people can do. And so all of these extrasensory abilities, they're actually located in the crystalline DNA strands. And so just imagine your junk DNA in your body. And that junk DNA, when you go through and you start activating it, it gives you access into these type of abilities. Now, we've seen these abilities written about in a whole ton of different religions on the planet, have spoken about these abilities. So now the junk DNA, that's what it is. It's there for us to activate. Now, some people may get very uncomfortable with that type of conversation. That's okay too. But let's talk about the healing, because instantaneously healing is one of those abilities. Now, when we start to feel sick, we know from the medical communities that they tell us that you could take a placebo pill, which is a sugar pill, and that sugar pill, if you believe it's going to work, it's going to work. And so what does that tell us? It's mind over matter. And so the second that we know and we believe that we have access to do these types of things, you can change your eye color, you can change your hair color. Your hair color changes, by the way, with stress. And so when you get very stressed, you start to develop gray hairs. Right? Take a look at the presidents. Every time a new president comes in, it's like his hair turns gray. That's because he's under a lot of stress. Now, if you've ever seen someone who's very stressed in your own life and their hair starts to turn, well, if you get sick because you're stressed, the only logical thing to assume would be if you got really happy, your hair color would start to heal. Doesn't that make sense? And so that's kind of like the placebo effect. I was trying to change my eyes and instead change my boyfriend's instead. Yeah, I did too. I did a tiny little ring of green around my eye way when I was younger. I was listening to those like hypnotists, right? The little thing that says your eyes are green, your eyes are green. And then I started to notice that the pigment was breaking up. My uncle, he also woke up one morning and his eyes turned from mud brown to green. So he spontaneously shifted. Now, whenever we see spontaneous shifts of that nature, it basically means that the soul, the higher self, changed frequency because the binary codex frequency had shifted its oscillation, which changes the way we look. So that shapeshifter ability thing is real. And so, but once again, like any ability, you're going to have to go inside. You're going to have to work on it. Now, that working on it means placing conscious focus and attention, because wherever we put focus and attention, it enhances or it manifests that timeline into our lives. And so the more we start to place focus and attention on things, it's going to allow the things that we want to see in our life to actually come to us, which is a blessing. So today is Tuesday. So Tuesday we normally do the shadow work session that starts at 8:30. So anybody who wants to come to the shadow work session, please go to daniellelipton.com and send me a message. When you send me a message, I'm going to email a complimentary Zoom link so that you guys can come. There's no charge. This is only so that we grow together, we heal together, we form a community. And so we dive into the shadow work. Any pains, any traumas, we open up the chakra systems, we start pulling out the densities. It basically is it's very random. So I let the star people guide the entire process, and they know you guys who's going to show up before you show up, because they start fine tuning you guys like a day or two before. It's so funny. So, and everyone says that. Excellent. So does anyone have any more questions? When I was really sick, my eyes became a hazel color. I've always had dark brown, almost black eyes. Yeah, that can happen too. So last week's link is different. No, it's the same exact link for the shadow work every single session. So we don't change the link. Yeah, same exact one. Excellent. So we'll do one more question. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do this one. Okay, so somebody quit smoking. Will the attachment release because there's nothing to feed off of? And so, not necessarily. A lot of times, see, there's different levels of the attachment. And so, the lower level attachments, they will hop right off, because when you walk through the civilization, they actually hop from person to person. So, let's say they're feeding off of you and you've given them so much that you're depleted in that area, they can actually ricochet onto someone else, and then they start feeding off of that person. That's kind of how they work. It's okay, though. We shouldn't fear them at all. Now, the smoking ones, have you ever seen someone who was smoking and then they haven't smoked like 20 some 30 years goes by, and then they smoked one, and then wham, they were back onto that pack a day habit, right? And that's because that attachment was sitting there waiting, and he was waiting for the ideal moment to push that red button to get them back into the cycle. Okay. How did the rock transporting go? I have no idea. Neurological disorders, electrical symptoms, please discuss. Yes. So that's all the same exact thing. Now, whenever we start to see neurological, is always in the energetic. You also want to have a good look at your vitamin D levels, because think about it from this perspective. Neurological is your chi energetic system. We ground into the earth. So you put your feet on the earth and it's grounding off your electrical systems. But we're also absorbing. It's like an electricity. This is your chi energy. It comes from the sun. It gets pulled in through your solar plexus, which is yellow in its nature. Your belly button is where we first received our energy in the physical reality. So a lot of that solar energy, that solar energetic, it's coming in through there, and it actually starts this 3. This is what they call the 3 refractal points of light, is what the star people are saying right now. So we have the solar plexus, which is yellow, that pulls the energy in, and then it goes like a 3. So the next one, it tunes into the heart, and then the other one tunes into the pineal. So it's like you're sucking it in and it's forming a 3. And so this is how that chakra system works. Now, when you're pulling the energy up and in, it has to always dive into the heart, and then the heart with the thought grid, which is in the pineal gland. So all 3 of these come together. Any type of neurological disorders, I would definitely look into getting an earth grounding sheet if you can. So the sheet will have like copper in it. Copper is very important for pulling energy in it. Now, we can even use copper tubings and different types of spirals when we're doing our plants outside. And so what it's doing is it's pulling life force energy in, and it's releasing it into the soil so that the plants have more access to that energetic. So if you can start to do something, even if you utilize different copper wrapped around crystals, and so that does the same exact thing, or organite. I had a piece over here. I don't know where I put it. But the organite is different, and then it has copper spiral inside, so it's pulling that energetic in, and it actually recharges your energetic grid structure. So neurological also. Now, once again, I am not a medical doctor. However, for anything wrong in the brain, I would definitely do my research on monoatomic gold. Monoatomic gold is something that I personally have taken. I developed some type of memory thing. We're just gonna leave it at that. So it was really it was fun. And so but I took monoatomic gold and it kind of healed. So I got lucky with that one. But gold is a superconductive of electrical currents. And so when you're taking it, it heals the mind. So anyone who's dealing with like Alzheimer's or any type of neurological, any of that stuff, right? And the second that you take the monoatomic gold, it increases your oxygen levels. And so I would definitely start doing Wim Hof breath work. That's a great one to rebalance the pH and the oxygen in your body. I would take the monoatomic gold. I would definitely ground out to the earth. I would try everything, even try changing locations. And so maybe the location that that person's in, if they change, let's say that they went down to the Bahamas on a beach and they spent a week or 2 or 3 on a beach, do you notice that their symptoms are any better? Right? So just pay attention to location because they might have to go somewhere to rebalance. Back in the days, we used to have spiritual journeys. Those spiritual journeys allowed us to go in and rebalance our own energetics. So that may also help. I help people regulate their brain waves. It's called neurofeedback therapy, and it helps every brain ailment. Yes, absolutely. So you should be doing all of these things, everything. And so I have a brainwave reader. It's a little thing I put on, and then I put headphones in, and it talks me with the bird noise. It's like the birds get loud. I know I'm not focused. When they get nice and quiet, it's like, okay, I'm in a good zone for the meditation. But it also allows me to see when I start tuning into higher frequencies. Now, even the channeling, if you put a brainwave reader on someone's head and they're officially channeling, so you know that they're channeling, you're going to start to recognize theta, brainwave patternings. And so my symptoms were better on Long Island near the ocean. Yeah, so maybe that's why they said that, right? Me too. When I was going through my healing, every day we were down at the beach. And we were just, even if it was cold, we were just there to just ground out, right? Put our feet in the sand, give love and thanks and blessings. The salt water and the ocean, it discharges your emotion grids. I have noticed that when I channel higher self, my voice and speed of speaking changes. Yes, that's how you know you're channeling a very, very high frequency is when you start talking really like very rapidly and it kind of feels like you're elevated a very tiny bit. Good. It confirms the move. Perfect. Where did I get the brainwave reader? I'm actually from Facebook Marketplace. I don't know why it's always Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, I bought it secondhand and I have to figure out the name of it. Paige, you're coming to the shadow work, so I'll probably whip it out. It's in my cabinet. This way you guys can see. You just charge it with a little Bluetooth, you put it on, and then it reads and it's amazing. There's an app for that. So, but I feel like it's like a novelty. So like you do it a bunch of times and you're like, okay, I'm good. Right. And then what happens? You put it on Facebook Market and someone else gets it. Right. So it would be great if we had somewhere that we could rent these things so that we don't have to spend $100 on it. Like, let me try it for a day or two. Here's $10. And then you try it and then that's it. You use it, even if you rent it for a month or two. Right. And then when you're over it, it's like, okay, you can have it back because now it's just taking up space. So I'm a big fan of sharing because when we have even the crystals. Oh, by the way, that's another thing. The crystal packages are going in the mail tomorrow. So I actually have an abundance of Andara crystals. And so the Andara crystals are real. They are perfect. I have blues and greens and all sorts of wonderful colors. So anyone who wants one of those packages, you guys can go to daniellelipton.com and get one because I'm mailing them all out tomorrow. So we had a bunch come in. Now, I also throw in extras. And so I like to put goodies and surprises and all sorts of stuff. And this is also helping me with my own crystals because just like I was telling you guys, I like to buy something and then let's pass it on to someone else because the crystals, let's say for a moment that we needed to have this crystal in our life for healing. Well, what are you supposed to do with it after you're done healing? You can't have 1,000 crystals. It's too much energy. My kid's an artist. I started hanging up all of his artwork in the living room. And can I tell you, we filled an entire wall with just artwork from him and my daughter. And so But after that, it was like, oh, the energy in the room had shifted and it was a lot of chaos because there was just it was layered artwork on top of artwork. So too many crystals is the same exact thing. It's too many different frequencies. So when we start to recognize that, okay, we have an overabundance, now I shifted. So now I started using palm stones and ordering bigger palm stones so I can throw them in the bed and I don't lose them like a pocket stone. And so, but all the pocket stones, it's like, okay, we want to share and care. So I take some of those, put them in the crystal packages, and yeah, it's just wonderful. It's nice to be able to share. And then I actually had a bunch of you guys sent in crystals too. So that's where the Yandara crystals came from. My good friend Stacy, she mailed them all in so that we can gift them to you guys and go through this whole process of making these beautiful packages and sharing and caring. So it's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, the PO box is PO Box 56, Emmaus, Pennsylvania 18049. And I'm Danielle Lipton. You guys can just title them there. I'll write it out. I'll put it on Facebook too so you guys can see. Excellent. So we are running a spring into summer discount. So we are offering, because a couple people actually requested this. So the Ascension package. Now the Ascension package is one of the best packages we have because it knocks the price down to, it's ridiculously low. So what we're doing is we're doing a buy one, get one free on the Ascension packages. So yeah, you guys can also go to daniellelipton.com and do one-on-one sessions with me. So anytime you guys have questions on your evolutionary processes, if you want to make contact communication or your star family wants to come through, different attunements that you may have into the extrasensory abilities, all of that information comes through on our sessions. So it's absolutely wonderful. There's a lot of healing that may come up. The star people guide the entire process, so they know what you guys need. Yes, you definitely can send crystals in. I'm going to post it up on Facebook so you guys know. Excellent. You guys have a wonderful evening. And thank you for coming to the shadow work if you guys want to come. And many, many love and blessings. Great night. Oh, it's not a touchscreen. I don't know how many times I'm going to do this. So funny.